to the song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what we'll be bringing. We'll make you happy. We'll make you happy.
Hey everybody, I'm Jack Lombardo, and it's the Love Month here on Toy Talk. That's right, it's February, and with February comes the most romantic of all holidays, Valentine's Day. And everybody in relationships is running out and buying flowers and candy and cards, setting up romantic dates and weekend getaways, and those that aren't in relationships are often looking to find that special someone. And you know, I'm willing to venture to say that the majority of people watching the show either are or at some point in time have been in love. And you know, love is a wonderful thing. You hear all those phrases, you know, love makes the world go round, or all you need is love. And like I said, love is wonderful. However, I also feel that love is a little confusing. You know, we hear all these songs out there, you know, I want to know what love is. You know, we hear that, what is love? You know, you got the Batabi brothers out at night at the Roxbury. And you know, you see books, thousands of books trying to explain what love is. You get television shows, movies, and nothing really quite does describe it. And the reason for that is that love is a very hard concept to describe. It's very complex, and I'm not going to try to describe it today. I'm no love guru. I'm no expert in the area. I just want to talk a little bit about it today. And the reason I feel often that it is so confusing, especially in our culture, is because the English language has one word for love. But you know, let's face it, love can't be summed up in one word. We say, you know, we love our children, we love our parents, we love our husband or our wife or our boyfriend or our girlfriend. We love our pets. You know, we love our house, we love our car, we love our job. You know, we love eating certain types of food, or love taking walks on the beach, or love taking rides in the country. We love certain foods. We love that new outfit we just bought. You know, there's so many things, and they are obviously not at all the same. And this makes things very confusing. You know, because we're trying to figure out what love is, but we've got this word that is just so varied in what it means. So what I'd like to do today on Toy Talk is I want to talk to you about different languages. Certain languages have more than one word for love. Now, I am by no means a linguist, and I mean, I'm not an expert in this area, but I have studied the language I'm going to talk about, which is Greek, and most specifically, you know, ancient Greek. And I only choose that because I have studied the area a little bit. I'm not fluent, you know, I'm not an expert in the area, but I have studied enough of ancient Greek to realize that there are at least 4, some would say 6, but there's at least 4 words that are used to describe love in this language. And as we look at these, I think it can help us to understand a little bit more what love is, and specifically what we can use in love, and specifically for relationships, which is how we usually refer to love in the American culture. Now, the words that are used in ancient Greek are phileo, storge, agape, and eros. So we're going to take a look at these one at a time. Phileo, storge, agape, and eros. Now, the first word, phileo, is where we get our word Philadelphia. And obviously, Philadelphia is known very widely as the city of brotherly love. And this is the type of love we get from phileo. It's a friendship type of love. This is your love with your friends, where you go, you enjoy doing the same things, you like going to the same places, you have a lot of things in common. You've got a bond, but it's not a super strong bond. There's no romantic feelings in phileo. There's no physical attraction. It's just you and your friends. You know, you occasionally might hear women or girls, I've heard them tell maybe a friend, I love you, but you hardly ever will hear a heterosexual man tell another man that he loves him. It just doesn't happen much in our culture. And if it does happen, it's usually in reference to a really serious time. Maybe they're moving away, there's been a death in the family, something serious has happened. And even then, it's usually that, you know, kind of quick pat on the back, hey, love you, man. And that's it. Never spoken of again. We don't talk about it. It's realized that we're not saying we're in love with each other. There's no physical attraction. We don't even like saying it because we do think of love as having physical sexual attractions, and we don't want to have any confusion there. Now, as we move into Sorge is more of the type of love we see in families. Sorge is a love we have from parent to child, child to parent, brothers and sisters. Now, this is a love that is stronger than the phileo love. We have that blood bond. You know, what do they say? Blood is thicker than water. You know, you really are committed to each other. You've got a relationship that's probably going to last the majority of a lifetime. You want to see each other succeed. You're there for each other. Now, often you may not even like everything they do or everything they say. You might not always get along with your brother or sister and like everything that your parents say or that your children do, but you're there for each other. You're committed, and you're generally going to be there for the rest of your life. Now, the third word is agape. Now, agape is less prevalent in today's society. Agape is more of a religious type feel of love. Agape would be a love from between God and man, or God and people, humans, not men or women per se, but people and God. This is a reverential love. This is like worship. This is the type of love that has a level of really strong honor within it. Like I said, it's not as prevalent in today's culture, but it is one of the words in language, so it's being brought up, and there are things we can learn from it. Now, the last word is eros. Now, this is where we get our word erotic. Eros is more of the physical love, that physical attraction, the act of lovemaking. This is where sexual encounters come in. Eros is our erotic love. Now, this often is the way we view love in our culture, and that's not a bad thing at all. But the problem is that as time goes on, if that's the only thing a relationship is built on, it's generally not going to last. You know, we have that initial attraction to somebody, and that's great. You know, we see them, we're attracted, we're drawn to each other, we build a relationship. Like I said, the act of lovemaking comes in, all the physical attributes. But in time, a lot of that changes. You know, we start to look different, we get older, things start to sag, things start to get bigger. And, you know, it's not the only thing that can hold a relationship together. And, you know, we need to learn that these four things being pieced together can help a relationship work a lot better. It can help love come together in a better way, in a way that can be stronger. Now, again, I'm not claiming to be any kind of an expert, and there's no way to guarantee that a relationship or love is going to work. But if we piece these things together, it very much can help. If we find that we have these things in common, that we enjoy doing the same things, we like each other's company, you know, we have a bond with each other. We've got a commitment where we want to see each other succeed. And even with agape being less prevalent in our culture, if you look at traditional marriage vows, they've always said, you know, to love, honor, and obey. It's not a worship, there's not a reverence for the other person, but there is a level of that we honor them, we respect them. And of course, there is the eros, the physical attraction. Now, if we could get these things to work together, you know, it makes a relationship much stronger than it would be if they weren't in place. And you know, this doesn't even cover all the views of love. We mentioned pets and food and all these other things. But in romantic relationships, it really can help to build a bond that could make things stronger. I mean, in our culture, we've got marriage rates where divorce is over 50%. And if you factor in all the relationships that end, I mean, it's probably somewhere in the 90s. And nobody wants that. Nobody goes into a relationship wanting it to end. We all want it to work out. And if we could learn to find these things, not just one area, not just we enjoy doing the same things or we're just attracted, but if we can get these things working together, I think we have a much better chance of having relationships last. And I'd love to see everybody out there find that, to find that special someone and see it last for a long time. You know, we all see those old couples walking around in the park or something that have been married for 40 and 50 years, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'd love to see everyone out there find that for themselves. Now, we're going to cut to message, and I'll be back in just a minute to talk to you about our toy of the week.
This Valentine's Day, tell them you love them with those 3 little words.
Pillsbury sugar cookies.
Just roll, cut, bake, then decorate with your own sweet message. They're the perfect way to say, I love you, oh.
Oops.
This is luxury carpeting from Gold Finds, deeply piled, resonantly fibered, luxurious. It's luxury carpeting so deeply piled that you'll want to stretch out on it, bask in its luxury. You'll feel wonderfully rich. And now you can have this luxury carpeting in your home in plush, shag, pattern, or kitchen carpeting at just $5 a square yard from July 11th through July 14th from Gold Finds by the bridge.
Right on.
Welcome back. Now, as a collector, I like everything in my collection. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise. And I would venture to say that that's the same with anybody who collects anything, whether it be cards or plates or cars or homes or whatever you collect. Generally, you must buy it because you would like it. However, I would venture to say that any collector of anything has certain things in their collector that they like a little more than the others, things that are kind of special to them, things that you love. And I certainly have those things in my collection. And I recently added something that has a lot of meaning to me. It's very special. I was so excited to get this. And I want to share the story behind it. Now, I recently bought a car. It's a couple years old, fairly new car. And it's the first car I've ever owned that has an aux cable, you know, where you can connect your cell phone into the radio. And I love having this thing, man. I drove an older vehicle before that, and being able to plug that in and listen to specifically the songs I want to hear, or I'll listen sometimes to certain speakers, I'll listen to audiobooks, and I'm really enjoying having this. But what ends up happening is often when I have the kids in the car, we listen to a lot of books, a lot of stories. And recently, I was driving my 3 youngest children to Beverly. My daughter Destiny is 11, Bethany, who's been on the show before, is 9, and my son Tony is 7. And we were listening to some stories, and I told Destiny, we've got about a 20-minute ride. Pick out something that's not too long. And she just randomly picked out this story called Spiderman, the Mark of the Man-Wolf. She told me the name, put it on, it didn't mean a single thing to me. And I started listening to it, it seemed rather interesting. You know, J. Jonah Jameson, the publisher, editor, or whatever it is of the Daily Bugle, who's always after Spider-Man, you know, thinks he's a menace, was out to get Spider-Man again as usual. And then in comes his son to visit. His son was an astronaut that had been one of the last people to walk on the moon, and comes in. This story is meaning absolutely nothing to me. Until about 3 minutes in.
All right, son. You're white as a sheet and you're trembling.
I'm sorry, Dad. Got a touch of the flu.
The flu? You better take care of yourself, John.
Like I said, Dad. Sorry. I've been under a strain. I'd better get home.
Later the same evening, in a brownstone overlooking the Hudson River, a door opens, releasing a sliver of yellow light and the stumbling form of a young man.
Nothing I can do. It's happening again. I'm changing.
And in several seconds, we see before us a man-wolf. Whoever was present in this creature a moment ago is gone. Now there is only an animal.
And all of a sudden, you hear that transformation into the man-wolf or werewolf. And the transformation, you hear this. As soon as I heard that, I couldn't believe it. It all came rushing back to me. I used to listen to Spider-Man, Mark of the Man-Wolf, when I was a little kid, and I had totally forgotten about it. I haven't heard it in probably 40 years. As soon as I heard that, I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to listen to this all the time. I'm telling my kids, they're getting excited. And immediately, it was like I was right back to being a little child up on the 3rd floor of my grandmother's house. We had an apartment up there. I was sitting there on my shag green rug with my little Raggedy Ann and Andy record player covered in fake blue denim, sitting on the ground, looking at the pages and listening to the record, Mark of the Man-Wolf. And man, I was just, wow, I had totally forgotten about it. Well, here's where it gets a little more interesting. A few days later, about 3 or 4 days later, I walked into Nosto's boutique in Ipswich. Now, Nosto's is a comic and collectible store over by Choate Bridge for anybody who's never been in there. It's a great little store. They have a lot of collectible toys, comic books. They do gaming tournaments, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, anything that anyone might be interested in, want to give them a little plug. It's a great store. The owners are super nice people. So I wandered in, and I was looking around, and nothing was really jumping out at me this day as to anything I needed in my collection. There was cool stuff, but nothing I really felt I needed to grab. But something in me kept saying, something's here. And I was looking through a second time, looking through a third time, and was talking to Jess, one of the owners, and was getting ready to leave. And at that moment, a young woman walked into the store, and she went over and started looking at a stack of comic books that was on one of the gaming tables that hadn't been displayed. She looked through, I waited, and when she was done, I went over and looked. Now, I don't have a lot of comic books in my collection. I have a few, but I decided to go look through the stack, and I looked at the first one, second, third, and fourth, and I just froze. I couldn't believe it, because what I saw right there in that stack was Spider-Man, Mark of the Man-Wolf. Like I said, I hadn't thought of this story in over 40 years. And 4 days earlier, there I am hearing it for the first time in over 40 years. I really felt like it was like almost like the universe bringing this to me, preparing me to be ready to see it. If I had flipped through that a few days earlier, I probably wouldn't have even recognized it. But since I'd heard it, it was back in my mind. And so, man, I was just so thrilled to find this. I couldn't believe that in that short a period of time, it all lined up and came into my hands. And I've done a little research since then and found out a little bit about it. It was released obviously by Marvel Comics, who released Spider-Man, specifically Stan Lee, and Power Records. Now, Power Records was a company in the 1970s, and what they did specifically was make these records that told the stories that you followed along in the book. They did things for DC and Marvel Comics. They did a lot of movies and television shows. They did Planet of the Apes, Star Trek, Space 1999, Bionic Man. And as I was doing the research, I found out that most critics and experts in the area consider Mark of the Man-Wolf to be the best record they ever put out. And I had no idea about that. But then the other thing that really blew me away was that this was released in 1974. I was born in 1971. That means I had this, I probably wasn't even old enough to read when I had this book in record. And I would sit there for hours listening to it. I don't know if I got it exactly when I was 3 or maybe a few years later, but I had to be a very young child. And like I said, I hadn't thought of this in probably close to 40 years. And here it is from 1973 to 2018. We're talking about 45 years later, and it's back in my hands and in my collection. I'm just, like I said, I'm just thrilled to own it. It's one of those pieces that I really can say I love having this. Well, we're going to cut to one more message, and we'll be back with not our guest, but our guest this week on the Love Month of Toy Talk.
It's the Shake-a-Leg.
Play around with one, play around with two, play around with me, I'll play around with you, play around with 3 or 4 more, play around outside, play around indoors.
Shake-a-Leg. It's a play-around toy.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. That's the real thing. I like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony, perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today. It's the real thing. What the world wants today. It's the real thing.
Everybody, welcome back. Now, as a collector in 2018, things are changing. Like most of society, technology is starting to take over. Where normally we would always go out and find toys at the flea market, thrift stores, different places, you're finding more and more nowadays online. Of course, people go to eBay, but more and more we're starting to see pages pop up on social media networks like Facebook. And there's all these pages that are dedicated sometimes to Star Wars toys, wrestling toys, whatever it may be. Some are just vintage toys in general. And one of the guys that I see pop up on a pretty regular basis is Tim Tardiff. Every day I see him posting, I see him buying, selling. He runs a lot of the pages. And today he is the guest here on Toy Talk along with his wife Lisa for our Valentine's Day special. Timmy and Lisa, welcome to Toy Talk.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here, Jack.
Now, you guys, you told me you've been together for 31 years, married for 29.
Correct.
And you started collecting in 1991, is that correct?
Officially, I've collected my whole life back to 1978.
Oh, okay.
But that's as a kid.
As an adult, 1991 in the package stuff.
Okay, and now that you mentioned the 1978, I know your main page on Facebook is Timmy's 10 again, like Timmy's 10 years old again. Timmy's 10 again, and you were born in 68, so 78 was when you were 10.
Correct, and that's when the best toys were on the shelves.
I agree, that's the year Star Wars came out. Movie came out in 77, year later the toys.
G.I. Joe, Hot Wheels, it just keeps going.
Now, tell us a little bit about your page, what you do on there.
Well, it's toys and collectibles. I do antiques too. I usually go to thrift stores and stuff like that and try to find what I can to make a profit on. And then I put them in my store, but the store's closed. I actually am online meeting people, and then they meet me at the store.
Well, you used to own Cool Rarities down in Danvers. Peabody?
Peabody.
And you've shifted more online nowadays.
Correct.
Okay. So now, I know one of the things that you've said you do is that you don't only just go to thrift stores, you actually do clean outs of houses?
Yes. Yeah. Anytime there's an opportunity to do a clean out on a house, we take a look. If we see old toys, we're taking that one.
Absolutely. You know, and talking to different people I know that collect, that's where, honestly, really where the vast majority of vintage toys seem to pop up from, is when people go in and they clean out the attics, they clean out the basement, and you find these toys a lot of times not even opened. You know, they're just sitting there from the 70s and the 80s, and
they think they can take them with them.
Absolutely. And so you guys started this together, you know, specifically as a business in '91. And how have you guys done this together? Like, Lisa, like, what have you guys?
We'd go and find things together. Like he was saying, he would just have a feeling, and he would just turn in a parking lot store, and we'd go in together, and sure enough, there'd be something there on the shelf. He knew.
She was going to treasure hunt Hot Wheels, though.
It kind of rubbed off on me a little bit, because I did the same thing one day. I just turned in, and I just went in, and there was a treasure hunt Hot Wheels sitting right there, grabbed it,
That's so
brought it
true.
home.
Sometimes you get that, like, sixth sense, you know, that extra sense that you just, man,
you
I
see
think
me doing
there's
cartwheels in
something
the aisle,
there.
I scored something.
Absolutely. You know, like I just talked about it in the second segment of this episode. I explained how I got the Toy of the Week. I mean, I just had no idea that was going to be there, and I wandered in, and I had just heard it, you know, a few days earlier, and there it was, just sitting there. It was just amazing, you know. Great. But you brought some toys in with you. Let's take a look at what you guys got. And you guys collect together, which is so awesome as a couple. I love that.
And in 1991, I found this.
If you can just show it to the cameras,
I realized that it was what they say booking for, because when the book's for $30, and I said to myself, I can't open that until I get another one.
Yeah.
And I never did open this. The package is kind of beat up. It's not real high value, but sentimental, it's a big deal.
And you said it was the first toy you ever collected.
Correct.
And this is the 1991, it was a company called Toy Biz. This was Iceman from the Uncanny X-Men.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And at the time, it was worth $35.
Okay.
You know, and,
I don't want to ask what
well,
values
we started collecting these in '91 because we decided not to buy anything that doesn't have a resale value. So all my kids' toys, when they were done with them, we stored them and hoarded them. And when they grew up, and now we're selling those.
Absolutely.
And that's what's keeping us
going.
going.
And Toy Biz, you know, they mostly, they might have exclusively, but I know mostly focused on Marvel. They did all the different superheroes, you know, Spiderman, X-Men, all the big Stan Lees, you know, and they've really, you know, people are always looking for Toy Biz. They're great toys.
Yep.
And it's not just you. Like I said, you guys do this together, and Lisa brought in a specific toy. Now, did you, I wasn't sure on this, did you actually own this as a child, or you bought it as a, you did?
Yes.
And this is the Glamour Gals.
Yes, the Glamour Gals.
It's kind of like
little miniature Barbie dolls.
Yeah, it's almost like, it reminds me of the Polly Pockets, even though they're larger than them.
Yep.
You know.
And so I played with these when I was a little girl, and still have them.
But those are the greatest things. When you have those ones that you just played with, and they're still sitting there in your collection, it's always just great stuff.
And then you pass them down. My girls have played with them. You know, it's a nice thing.
The Glamour Gals collection. Glamour Gals! Shara in Simply Sparkling. And the Showplace collector's case, each sold separately. It has a revolving door that really works, and a place for each Glamour Gal's fashion doll.
Shara's ready to go shopping. Store's open. Buy something pretty. Look, Shara's in Root and Toot and Rose.
Glamour Gal Collection Showplace Collector's Case. Dolls sold separately. From Kenner.
And Timmy, you just reminded me as you pulled that out. I wanted to mention this. Now, you got a Tom Brady with you today, but you just pulled it out of your pocket.
Yes, sir.
Now, you mention online pretty often. I see you put up these pictures, and it says, today's Pocket Pal is. And what is the Pocket Pal deal?
Well, I always have a toy I play with, no matter what I'm doing. I have hands that are always going, so if I'm in a waiting room or something, I like to pull out a toy. So I try to get a good character that I like. Of course, Tom Brady's my favorite character.
Super Bowl coming up Sunday, of course. You know,
he
that's
almost
a big
doesn't
deal.
fit in my pocket. Usually I try to get something a little smaller.
Now, and he's a starting lineup character, I'm assuming?
This one's in McFarlane, the Todd McFarlane
okay.
Sports Picks.
I've got an
I forget what
AVP
series this
McFarlane
one
right
is,
now,
but this is
so,
the one that I opened. And I do like to open my favorites, and a lot of people don't like me for that.
I mean, and nobody has to tell you that like a Tom Brady figure isn't necessarily vintage, but it definitely has resale value.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
there's no doubt about that.
Yes.
And you know, they're gonna always sell. But I loved that. I always see you know, doing the Pocket Pal thing, and I never quite was sure what it was, and I wanted to ask you when you got on the show. But we'll just set Brady up there for today.
People start doing it so I can see their toys. That's the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Well, and I can imagine as you're walking around with the toy and you pull it on and start playing it, you must get people that ask about why do you have the toy and get to talk about the business and sales go.
And I try to make them stick out.
That's something else I wanted to mention too. Is like we've talked about all the stuff I collect, but like it's not most collectors we sell as well. I also do sell toys. I have a rule, we were talking about this a little while ago. I only keep toys that are specifically related to television shows or sometimes a little loose on famous television commercials or something. But if it's just a regular toy line or it's related to movies, I don't allow myself to keep it. That way I don't hoard everything. Because I want to also get the right toys into the right people's hands, you know, that they're going to enjoy it in their collections. It kind of bugs me that I don't have anything from Rocky or Star Wars, but you know, that's the rule. I got plenty of other stuff. If I added those, my house would be overrun, you know, you just so it's
I've been there.
It's a good move, you know. And you had something you actually wanted to really open up and show us on this show.
Some things are not worth big money, and some things I just love so much that I have to open. And this one has been killing me for a while. I've been dying to open up my Shaquille O'Neal
from the Lakers. Yeah,
he's a starting lineup. Speaking of hoarding, a lot of people did that with the starting lineups.
Most of them are putting those up all the time.
This is an extended one, but. We all thought that they were going to be worth millions by now.
Yeah, and they've.
So this guy right here takes up more real estate than his value.
Most of them are in the fives. You know?
So I've decided I'm going to open this, and this will probably become my daughter's best friend because that's what she usually does when I have
play
new
with
ones.
Shaq and cuddle up. Yeah.
Correct.
And so many people will not release those.
No, I'm getting ridiculed for this by so many people.
I'm sure some people are going to be like thrilled to see them up close, and other people are going to be like, "You just killed your value on that."
But it's all about my kids.
And that's
I know they're going to love to play with this one.
If they're going to enjoy it, that's what it really comes down to, and it's all about.
Yep.
And there he is, Shaquille O'Neal, with the big smile, ready to make the slam dunk up there. The large, his shoes are probably a little not to scale. He always had huge feet.
Yes.
But, you know, but he was a cool toy. And, you know, yeah, I mean, just setting these things out. We'll put him down next to Brady, two of the better athletes of our particular age.
Yes, sir.
And
I also have a gift for you.
Oh, okay.
Before I do forget. Now, these are Hot Wheels. They're not vintage, but they're very sought after right now.
Oh, okay.
If you were looking on the shelves right now, that is something you might be able
the
to
Gas
find.
Monkeys.
Correct.
The Gas Monkeys are very cool.
1968, so that's a good year. It's a nice retro.
You got the spoilers sticking out and everything.
Yeah.
Those are excellent. Yeah, I really appreciate those. And this is great having a couple that actually, usually we think of collectors and it's usually, you think of guys, although I know a lot of women that collect that are going to be on the show, but this is great to see a couple that does it together. And but just great to have you guys here on Toy Talk.
For my passion.
It's fun.
And it's nice. I've met you online for so long, buying and selling, but for the first time we've ever actually met in person. Came down about an hour away from New Hampshire to be on the show, and we're just really glad you were able to come here.
It's exciting.
And I hope to meet you again and spend some time together after Toy Talk.
Definitely.
So
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I know the show's going to take off. It's really good.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you. We'll be back again in just about another month, 3 weeks to a month. And until then, enjoy your toys.
Love.